Hello, Susie, are you there? Susie, can you hear me? Hi, Vincenzo. Vincenzo, are you there?
Yes. How are
Hi,
you?
good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, you too. And how are things in Italy?
Yes, the weather is not good.
Mm.
It's cloudy today. It's
Mm-hmm.
also a little fresh. It's not
Mm-hmm.
very warm. No.
Mm. I think I'd rather have that weather than what we're having here in Berlin. It's very
Yes.
hot and very humid,
Ah,
um, but it's also cloudy, so we aren't even getting any sunshine.
yes, but I think that the weather is going to change
Mm.
continuously. We have not a stable season today.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Seasonal changed. Seasonal change.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much things have
Yes,
changed in the
we
last few
can
years.
book something that be sure that the weather would be good. The weather would be yes good. That's the
Mm-hmm.
problem. So
Yes.
I don't know how to what to do. Yes, when the where to have where it's possible to have a good weather to have sun. But also, what about
Yes.
your holidays?
They're going well. I'm back in Germany, but the past week I was in Sweden.
Ah,
So I went to Stockholm, and the weather was amazing. It was
oh,
sunny,
oh,
warm, and
yes, I'm glad of this.
all the Swedish
So do you find the
people
period
said
very
it
a
was
very
the
good
best.
period, a very good period for weather, no? For have a good weather in
Hmm.
your period of vacation.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
And the last day though there was a big thunderstorm, a big rainstorm. It's
Huh.
raining every day, like sorry, raining all day when we left. So
Uh,
I was like, perfect timing.
it's it rained at the right time. Huh?
Hmm. Exactly.
Yes, yes,
Hmm. Well, hopefully the weather will be nice for the rest of the summer. So
yes.
let's see. We also have Ivan with us. Hi, Ivan.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good. Thank you for asking me.
And we also have our good friend, aka Ken, coming from Japan. Hi, Ken.
Yes.
Can
Hello,
I
how
call
are
you?
you?
Can I call you Ken?
Sure.
Oh, you sound a little bit sick. Are you under the weather?
Yeah, my throat is vulnerable for dry air conditioned air, so it happens
Oh,
to every summer.
I
Yeah,
see.
kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you
But
go
I
from
feel
the
fine.
humid
Yeah, I
outside.
feel fine, but only the throat has a problem.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Well, maybe we won't have you read too much and you can save your voice.
I mean,
So,
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I can drink
okay.
tea or yeah.
That sounds good. Have some tea or some
Mhm.
juice. I usually have hot water with lemon whenever my
Oh,
throat
that's
hurts.
nice.
It's so
Mhm.
simple, but it really works.
I see. Yeah, try it. Yeah,
Hmm.
thank you. Mhm.
Okay, so let's get started today. We're covering five most common writing mistakes, or talking about common writing mistakes in English. And these are sometimes also mistakes made when speaking English. So this could be useful for both speaking and writing. And Vincenzo, I'm just going to ask you to turn off your video. Usually I just have my students be all just sound. Um, Excellent. Okay. And so we're going to be using an article today that comes from about.com. They have an excellent ESL section that has a lot of useful information. So here's the link to the page. I'm putting it in the VerbLink chat and the Google Plus chat. And I'll turn on my screen share. so we can take a look at it together. Okay. So I have to zoom in here for a second. Okay. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So we're going to be talking about common writing mistakes. These are the 5 top common writing mistakes of English learners. So to begin with, there's a short description from the author, Kenneth Baer, and he writes, I've been guide, I think he means I've been a guide to English as a second language at about.com since 1997. Over the years, I've read many comments, short essays, paragraphs, etc., in a wide variety of online forums. During this time, I've noticed some mistakes that tend to be made by almost all English learners and some native speakers at some time or another. Most of these mistakes can be easily avoided. It is my hope that this article will help you identify these mistakes and provide the information you need to stop making these mistakes writing online. So some of you may know there are lots of websites where you can learn about writing in English, and there are also websites where you can submit your writing and have native speakers or other people correct your mistakes. And if you're interested in learning how to become a better writer in English, I highly recommend that you practice as much as possible. It's also very useful for learning the grammar of English by practicing writing, because you have to use different tenses to convey different ideas. For example, I had a French teacher once who would have us write what we did in one day, let's say on a Saturday. She would tell us each week to write everything Saturday, but we would focus on a different tense. So one time we wrote everything that we did last Saturday using the simple past. Other times we would use the present perfect, and we got a chance to practice all of the different main verb tenses by writing, and I found it very useful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get started going over these common mistakes, and we'll talk about them. So let's see. Vincenzo, could you read number 1? Just what is the first common mistake of ESL learners?
Yeah. Define articles. The-A-N.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing.
So the use of.
The use of articles.
Sorry, Vincenzo.
Yes.
Number one. It's not definite articles.
Excuse me. I didn't see it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it's covered. The first part is covered.
Okay. Can you see it? So number 1, the use of indefinite slash definite articles.
Yes. The use of indefinite definite articles. The-A-N.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing when to use definite or indefinite articles can be difficult. Here are some of the most important rules to remember when using defined or undefined articles.
Okay, so the emphasis is actually on this syllable. So it's definite
Definitely.
and indefinite articles.
Okay.
Definite and indefinite articles.
Definite
Okay.
and definite, yes.
So here you can.
Accent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pronunciation is another tricky part of learning English.
Yeah.
So we'll always continue to work on that. So definite and indefinite articles, you can see here the best examples of them: the, a, and an.
Uh-huh.
It's important to know when to use them and also when not to use them, as well as to know which one is the appropriate article to use. So I'm going to read these important rules for remembering when to use definite and indefinite articles. Indefinite articles are used, so indefinite articles refer to the articles a and an the first time something is presented in a sentence. Okay?
Yes.
And don't worry, there's going to be examples further on. We use indefinite articles with anything that is not specifically known to both the writer and the reader. Okay? So that's something we're going to cover a lot. It's really important when we're talking about something specific and something in general. All right? Related to the first two, use a definite article when referring to something that has already been mentioned. Okay? And that goes back to this idea of the specific and the general, which I'm going to explain more about in just 1 minute. We also have, conversely, use a definite article, and the definite article is the, when referring to an object which is known to both the writer and the reader. And what that means is, if we are talking about something specific, okay, something that is known, for example, the computer to learn English, the computer. We know specifically it's that specific computer that Vincenzo uses to learn English, the computer that Vincenzo uses to learn English. So the, or definite article, I'm just going to type up a quick description. Okay, so the definite article the is used for something specific, okay, referring to a specific thing that we already have heard about or that we already know. On the other hand, a or an, those are indefinite articles. A or an is used for something in general. So a computer is useful for learning English. That could be any computer in the whole world, not specifically the computer that Vincenzo uses. Okay, so we're going to talk about that more when we look at the examples. And our final rule is just as important. Use no definite or indefinite article, nothing, in other words, when speaking in general, using a plural with a countable noun or the singular with an uncountable noun. So that sounds really confusing, I'm imagining. A plural with a countable noun, for example, computers. So that's a plural and it's countable. We can have 1 computer, 2 computers, 3 computers. So we know to use no definite article. For example, computers are useful when learning English.
Yeah.
And then we have the singular with an uncountable noun. So what's an example of an uncountable noun? Perhaps love. Okay? Love is uncountable. We can't have 1 love, 2 love, not unless, of course, you're playing tennis. But you can only have just the general idea, this uncountable noun. So you could say, love is the best feeling in the world. Okay, no definite article needed. We don't say the love or a love. And that's, I think, the biggest mistake. The last rule here is the most important. When I am helping ESL students, English as a second language students, with their writing, the biggest mistake I see is using a definite or indefinite article when none is required. Okay? So here are 5 examples of these mistakes in order for each type listed above. So we're going to take a look at these and see exactly what they refer to in the mistakes. Okay? So let's hear from Yvonne. Could you read maybe the first sentence with the mistake in it?
Yes, but I read the use indefinite articles, correct?
Just read. You don't need to correct it because we're going to go over the correct response. Just read this sentence here that I've highlighted.
Yeah. I live in the apartment close to the supermarket.
Okay, so before we look at the correction, let's look at that sentence and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. I live in the apartment close to the supermarket. Going back up, so indefinite articles are used, a or an, the first time something is presented in a sentence. Okay, so it's being introduced in the sentence, which means we don't already know it. It's not a specific apartment. So how could we fix this sentence? Before we look at the corrections, how do you fix this sentence to make it correct, Yvonne?
Two of the apartment, the supermarket.
Okay, so we're looking at what we have here is the definite article the, but it says up here the rule is indefinite articles are used.
Yes.
So either a or an are used the first time something is presented in a sentence. So how would you correct this sentence?
I live in an apartment close to the supermarket.
Okay, so here you can see the sentence is corrected. I live in an apartment. Okay, we know that we need to use an when the next word begins with a vowel sound. So we have the vowel sound apartment. I live in an apartment close to a supermarket. Okay? Note that I know the apartment and the supermarket, but you, the listener/reader, do not. So to the person who is saying this sentence, the apartment is something that's their apartment, and it's close to the supermarket. Mm-hmm. But the listener of this sentence does not know which apartment, which specific apartment, or which specific supermarket. So that means we have to use an indefinite article. I live in an apartment close to a supermarket. And if you're curious about when to use an and when to use a, that's a whole other lesson, but I do have a really good resource that explains in great detail how to tell when to use an and when to use a, and I can send that to you if you're interested. So just let me know. Okay, and next let's go to Ken. Ken, could you read the second sentence, the one I have highlighted?
Okay, I'd like to go to the good restaurant.
Okay, and how would you correct that sentence? I'd like to go to the good restaurant.
I'd like to go to a good restaurant.
Good. I'd like to go to a good restaurant. Yeah. So going back up to the rule here, use indefinite articles, either a or an, with anything that is not specifically known to both the writer and the reader. Okay? So we don't know which good restaurant this person wants to go to. We just know they'd like to go to a good restaurant. Really, any good restaurant. Okay? And Vincenzo, could you read this sentence, please?
Yes. I stayed in the hotel near the park. In the park. The hotel was very nice, and the park had some wonderful paths.
Okay, good.
Allora, I stayed in a hotel near a park. I stayed in a hotel near a park. The hotel was very nice, and the park had some wonderful paths.
Very good. Okay, so taking a look at the corrected sentence, in this beginning part, sorry, I'd like to scroll down, but I don't want to give away the answers. In this beginning part, we're introducing the hotel and the park, okay? And so that means we need to use an indefinite article.
Yes.
Yeah, just like in the first sentence.
Yeah.
So the second part, going back up, so conversely, use a definite article, the, when referring to an object which is known to both the writer and the reader. So we've already introduced the hotel and the park. We can say the hotel was very nice, and the park had some wonderful paths. Very good. Okay? And we've got the next sentence. Back to you, Ivan.
Yes. Okay.
Excuse me, teacher, but
yes.
Okay, the park. Okay, yes. And the park, yes.
So in the first sentence, we're using a definite article when referring to something that has already been mentioned.
Okay.
So we mentioned a hotel and a park, which means the second time we can define them. That hotel, the park. Okay. Back to you, Ivan.
Okay. Remember, in presentation we went to last week. Remember the presentation we went to last week.
Good. Okay. So this is something that is known to both the writer and the reader. Both the writer and the reader went to this presentation. So we would say, remember the presentation we went to last week. And going back to my definitions, this is a specific presentation they went to last week. So they both know this specific presentation the person is referring to. Since it's specific, we need to use a definite article, the. And we also have the final sentence. I'll read this one. The apples are generally very tasty in season. Okay? So here we go up to our last rule. Use no definite or indefinite article, nothing in other words, when speaking in general, using a plural with a countable noun, or the singular with an uncount. Are apples countable or uncountable?
Countable.
Can we count? Yeah, they're countable. We can count them. 1 apple, 2 apples. And this is also a plural. So how would we change this sentence to reflect the correct use of that rule?
Erase that and just say apples are generally very tasty in season.
That's right, Ken. So it's just apples are generally very tasty in season. Okay. Any questions about using indefinite or definite articles?
No, teacher.
Good. So just to let everybody know, it does get confusing because we have these ideas such as concept nouns like love or time, or things that are also considered uncountable such as sunshine. And it's important to know that you don't need to use definite or indefinite articles for those uncountable nouns in the singular.
Excuse me, teacher, but this is true also for countable, no? You don't have to use the article, no? It's like in the example, like the example in the apples, no? You can start.
Only when it's a plural.
Yes.
So when it's plural,
in both cases, is not when countable and uncountable, no?
When it's countable, but it's a plural, you don't need to use a definite or indefinite article.
Yes.
But if it's in the singular, then you do. So, for example, a computer is useful for learning English.
Okay.
Okay?
But love, yes, it's the same, no? Love, it's uncountable, but you don't need the article, no? Love, yes.
Yeah, no need for an article with that uncountable noun.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're all pretty clear about when to use those. And let's take a look at rule number 2. Sorry, there's some distractions here in German. That's only because I'm in Germany and there are these ads here. So Don't pay attention to the ad and just focus on number 2. So Ken, can I have you read the rule for number 2?
Okay, capitalize I and national adjectives, nouns, name, languages, and the first word of a new sentence.
Good. Okay. So this can be tricky for a lot of other speakers of foreign languages where the rules of capitalization are different. For example, in Germany, they capitalize all nouns, not just proper nouns, and so it can be confusing for Germans to learn the rules of capitalization in English. Okay, I need to excuse myself for just 2 minutes. I have to go use the restroom, so if everyone could just, in the class, just take a look at this rule and read it over silently to yourself, and I'll be right back, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Paolo, sono le 10:30, va. Mamma mia. Mamma mia. Andiamo a questa lezione, poi andiamo. Alle 9 deve essere pronta, come te lo devo dire? Ma sì, ma c'è sempre qualche cosa, tu?
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So continuing on, let's see. Yvonne, could you read the rest of the description of number 2, please? Yvonne, are you there? Maybe Vincenzo, you can read the rules of capitalization. Okay, well, I guess I'll just read it then. Okay, so rule number 2, capitalize I and national adjectives, nouns, names of languages, and, most importantly, the first word of a new sentence. So, the rules of capitalization in English are confusing. However, the most common capitalization mistakes that occur are with national adjectives, nouns, and names of languages. Remember these rules to help you avoid this type of capitalization mistake. So the number 1 rule, capitalize I. This is always true, okay? Even though you might be used to texting or writing on, a message on Facebook, and most people don't bother to capitalize I. The truth is, it's important to capitalize I in English because it's one of the main rules of capitalization. And the second main rule is to capitalize nations, national nouns, and adjectives. So, for example, French, Russian, English, Italy, Canadian, etc. Okay, so you capitalize nations such as Italy or Germany. You also want to capitalize national nouns such as Italian, or adjectives when it's used to describe a person, like Japanese or Canadian. Those are all going to be capitalized. And the other most important rule that's often forgotten in languages where you don't need a capitalize the first letter of the first word in a new sentence or question. Okay? The main rule to remember is to capitalize proper nouns. So we've got nations and places. We want to capitalize the letter I when you're referring to yourself, and the first letter of the first word in a new sentence. You do not capitalize common nouns. Nouns are only capitalized if they are the name of something. Okay? And I'll explain that further. Capitalize proper names of people, institutions, festivals, etc. So, for example, when you're talking about President Barack Obama, you're going to write that with a capital P because that's a title. And his first and last name are both capitalized because it's a proper noun referring to a specific person. If you're referring to a place, for example, we have San Diego, California. That's going to be capitalized. And that brings up another point. We usually capitalize the abbreviations of states. For example, San Diego, CA, or California. Those are also capitalized. So here we're going to take a look at some examples. Here's an example that applies to the last 2 points. I go to university. University in this case is a common noun, so it's not capitalized. However, I go to the University of Texas. This is a noun that's also a proper name, the proper name of this university. So both university and Texas are capitalized. Now, can anyone tell me why is the of not capitalized? Well, it's kind of a trick question. It's just a rule in English that common words used in titles, for example, University of Texas, are not capitalized. So small words like of, and, or, those are not going to be capitalized in a title. And that includes the title of an essay. And here we have 5 examples of these points. So let's see, Vinci there? Get your sound turned off. Or Yvonne, are you there? Okay, so I'll just read these then. Jack comes from Ireland, but I come from the US. So here the mistake is very clear. We need to capitalize that letter I. It's very important to capitalize I. Jack comes from Ireland, but I come from the US. The second example, I don't speak Chinese, but I speak a little French. So these are both language names. And as we talked about before, languages are always capitalized. Now this can be very confusing for people because they think, and usually in other languages, the languages are not capitalized, but they are in English. I don't speak Chinese, but I speak a little French with a capital C and a capital F. And the next one is a question. Where do you come from? So this is the beginning of a sentence, the beginning of a question. So we need to capitalize the W. Okay. And we also have the sentence. Let's see, Ken, could you read the next sentence starting with he bought?
Okay, he bought Sorry, I lost. He bought a new bicycle for his birthday.
So the bicycle's got a capital B, and that's not correct. So how can we change that sentence?
Bought a new bicycle. Bicycle is not capital, right?
That's right, because it's just a common noun. It's not a proper noun, so we don't need to capitalize it. He bought a new bicycle, lowercase b. And how about the final sentence?
Let's visit Maria this afternoon.
Okay, and so Maria is a person's name. That makes it a proper noun. So we need to make it a capital M. Let's visit Maria this afternoon with a capital M. Good. Okay, so capitalization is pretty straightforward. If you're not sure, you can refer back to these rules to decide if you need to capitalize something. But I would say if it's a place name or a proper name, you should rely on your knowledge of capitalization and remember to capitalize. Okay, let's take a quick peek at number 3. I'm going to read this section. Actually, you know what? Let's have Ken read this section since you've got your sound on.
Okay.
This one is a common mistake, but we're not going to spend too much time on it.
Okay, and number 3. Okay, slang and texting language. Many English learners, especially young English learners, like to use slang and texting language online. The idea behind this is good. Learners want to show that they understand and can use idiomatic language. However, using this sort of idiomatic language can lead to many mistakes. The easiest way to deal with this problem is to not use texting language or slang in a blog post, comment, or other online written communication. Texting is fine if you are texting, otherwise it should not be used. Any type of longer written communication should not use slang. Slang is used in spoken English, not in written communication.
Okay, that last sentence is pretty important. Slang is used in spoken English, not in written communication. So with a lot of my students, we've talked about these words like gonna. For example, I'm gonna eat breakfast. My students always ask if it's okay to write this word because it's used so often in everyday speech. But the word is actually I am or I'm going to. But when we say it real fast, it kind of blurs together and sounds like I'm gonna. I'm going to eat breakfast, for example. So I highly encourage my students not to use that slang of gonna or kinda or shoulda, any of those quick abbreviations that shorten these words in our speech. It's not good to use those in your formal writing, and it's a good habit to not start and just to always write in the formal English that you've learned in school and online. So let's not spend too much time there because we still have 2 other rules to cover. And we're going to talk about use of punctuation. So let's see. Ken, would you like to read the next section as well, or would you like me to?
Use of punctuation. English learners sometimes have problems when placing punctuation marks. I often receive emails and see posts in which there are no spaces before or after punctuation marks. The rule is simple. Place a punctuation mark immediately after the last letter of a word, followed by a space.
Okay, so this is a sort of pet peeve of the writer is the use of punctuation. So when they're placing these punctuation marks, they don't put any space between the punctuation mark and the beginning of the next word. So here's an example. They visited Paris, London, Berlin, and New York. And you can see here there's a comma, but there's no space after the comma. and it looks like the words are all kind of smashed together. And in the next sentence, I'd like to have some pasta, space, comma, space, and a steak. So the comma needs to come right after the word. There should not be a space here. And there should not be a space after the word steak. I haven't seen this mistake that much. I've seen more mistakes with the type of punctuation to use, but it's a good thing to know anyway. So the simple mistake and simple correction, they visited Paris, London, Berlin, and New York. You can see there's a comma and a space after the comma for each one of these commas. And then I'd like to have some pasta, a comma, and a steak, and then the period, no space. Okay? Okay, so here, the last one we're going to talk about is common mistakes in English, and I'm actually going to also include a link to an interesting graphic that shows many common mistakes in English. But let's see. We've got another student with us. Is it Obaid? How do you say your name?
Yes, hello teacher, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you, Obaid?
I'm fine.
And where are you from?
From Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome. Obaid, could you read number 5, please?
Number 5. Common mistake in English. I admit this is actually more than one mistake. However, there are number of common mistakes made in English. Make sure to visit the common mistake in English section of the site for more detailed information. Here are the top 3 common mistakes in English that are often found in writing.
Excellent. Okay, so it's more than one mistake, but these are common mistakes made in English, and there's a link here to common mistakes in English for more detailed information. And so here are these top 3 mistakes. So first we're going to start with it's or its. Now, I should tell you all that this is a mistake that is also commonly made by native speakers of English as well. In my other job, I teach writing courses at a college, and I see this mistake constantly. So, it's. When do you use it with the apostrophe here? Well, as you might know from learning English, when you have this apostrophe, it means it's standing in for another letter. For example, when we write I'm, as I've written before, I'm, the apostrophe stands for that A that is missing. I am, and the space. So in this case, it's, IT apostrophe S, actually stands for it is, okay? It's not possessive. Even though we see this apostrophe when we are talking about possessive, for example, Maureen's class, it makes it possessive. The class belongs to Maureen. And when you're talking about possessive form, it's just the letters I-T-S. Okay? It seems confusing that in one case the apostrophe means something is possessive, and in this case it means it's not possessive. But just remember, when we talk about mine, yours, and then its, none of those include apostrophes. So its is the possessive form. So when you see an apostrophe, there's a missing verb, okay, such as is, okay? And the key to that I tell my students is if you can replace its, oops, let me type that again, with it is, that's when you know to use its with the apostrophe. So let's take a look at an example of that, okay? Here we have some examples. Here are 6 examples, 2 for each in order, for each type of mistake listed above. So let's see. we have the first sentence here. Ken, could you read the first sentence starting with he?
Okay, he attributed his success to its appeal to children.
Okay, so in this case, appeal is possessive, okay? The appeal of something. We don't know what that it is, but it's possessive, which means we don't want to use that apostrophe. So the test is, could we replace that it's with it is? Well, let's try it out. He attributed his success to it is appeal to children. Does that sound right?
No.
No, it doesn't. So we know we should not use the apostrophe. Okay? And then the next sentence, Ken, could you read the next sentence too?
Okay, I think it's time to discuss this question in more detail.
Okay, so is time possessed by something? No, I don't think so.
No.
But could we replace it with it is? Well, let's try it. I think it is time to discuss this question in more detail. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, it is time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
so,
think it is time to
apostrophe.
discuss.
Yeah.
So we can replace it with it is, which means we can use the apostrophe. It or it's. So just use that trick. Can you replace it with it is? Does it sound correct? Is it grammatically correct? Then yes, you can. Okay, and moving on to our next common mistake. This is another common mistake that is also made by speakers of English, native speakers. So let's see. Obaid, could you read starting with then or than?
Okay. But I couldn't see this line or sentence. I couldn't see the paragraph, teacher.
Oh, you can't see it?
Yeah.
Do I need to make it bigger?
Just I can see your face. Just.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe click
That,
other student's icon and click teacher's icon again. Sometimes it works.
That's okay now.
Yeah.
Which one, teacher?
Okay.
Yes.
So then or than?
Then or then is used in comparative from its bigger than my house. Then is used as a time expression. First you do this, then you do that.
Okay, so when you're comparing something, for example, it's bigger than my house. Then is a time expression. First you do this, then after you do that. So let's take a look at the sample sentences. Okay, Obaid, could you read the sentence starting with the government?
The government decided it would cost more money to change policy than to leave current law stand.
Okay, so we're comparing two things here. We're comparing what would cost more money to change policy or to leave current law stand. And that means we're using the wrong form here. We need to use the comparative form, T-H-A-N, than, okay? It would cost more money to change policy than to leave current law stand.
Okay.
So I always think.
When we need to compare between two things, we can use then, not en, just only then, an. That's right?
Exactly. Yes. When you need to compare two things, you want to use an. So, for example, he is taller than my brother. T-H-A-N. You're comparing the height of one man to another man. Okay, and the next sentence, please. Obaid.
Yes. She can finish her homework, then go to practice.
Okay, she can finish her homework. That's the first thing she can do. Then go to practice. So this should be T-H-E-N. Then go to practice afterwards. So think first you do this, then you do that when it's a time expression. Okay? And the last mistake is good or well. So good is the adjective form. For example, that's a good story. The word good is the adjective describing the noun story. Okay, so this is a noun, and then good is describing it, which means it's an adjective. Then we have well, and well is the adverb form. He plays tennis well. Okay, so what's an adverb? Adverb is like an adjective, only it describes the noun, a verb, sorry. It describes a verb. So when we're talking about playing tennis, that's a verb. So well is the adverb that describes the verb plays. Okay? So the difference between an adjective and an adverb can sometimes be confusing, but this example illustrates it. Okay, so here we have this sentence. How good do you speak German? So we're talking about the verb to speak, which means we need to use an adverb form because the verb speak is being described by this word here. And so this is incorrect, but we can change it to be how well do you speak German, because well is an adverb. And let's see, Ken, could you read the final sentence, please?
Okay, I think he's well public speaker.
Okay, and so in this case, we're talking about the noun public speaker. That's a noun, so we need to use an adjective form. I think he's, and this should actually say, I think he's a good public speaker. And the word good is describing the noun public speaker. So we know we need to use an adjective. And another time this comes up is people ask the question, how are you? And you can answer, I'm well, or you can answer, I'm good. It's kind of debated in the world of teaching English, but it's pretty common for people to say, I'm good. And in that case, they're describing that adjective as describing them as a person. I'm good. Or in the other case of I'm well, they're describing themselves in terms of their feelings, which is a verb. So for example, I'm feeling well, you could say. So it's actually okay to say I'm good or I'm well. But just know that when you say I'm well, for some people that has the idea that you're not ill. So if I had gotten the flu and I was very sick and you said to me, how are you? And I said, I'm well, that would mean I have recovered from having the flu. Any questions about any of these common mistakes in English writing?
Can I reply for how are you as I'm fine?
Absolutely. I'm fine.
Okay.
You can definitely say that. In fact, that's probably the most common response. It depends on the type of person. Some people tend to say, oh, I'm good, because they want to express that they are in a good mood or they're feeling good. But it's perfectly appropriate to say, I'm fine. Although very positive, outgoing people might just say, oh, just fine, not good, because they want to know why you're not having a good or great day. But don't worry about that. Anyway, so you guys have the link to this page, and I also have a link to, if you're interested, there's a further description of some of these mistakes on this other blog, which I'm going to send you the link to now. And you can take a look at those and work on improving your writing. And if any of you are interested in practicing your writing skills in English, I'll be teaching a class in 2 hours on quick write. So we're going to get a topic, and I'm going to give everyone 15 minutes to write. and then we'll go over their writing and correct grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes, capitalization mistakes, and in general, just improve your writing in English, okay? So if you want to join me for that, that's going to be in 2 hours, and it'll be a lot of fun, and you'll get a chance to practice some of the things you've learned here today.
After 2 hours, teacher?
You can look for my class.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours from now, and we'll be doing a quick write.
Yes. About this, your class about this. How are we doing, right?
Yes, you're going to write, and then we're going to go over your writing, and I'll help you improve in any problem areas you have with writing.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so maybe I'll see you there.
Okay. Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So that's it for today. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time.